Hi, folks. It looks like we are live. This is the last session for this day of Dotnetos Conference. And now our guest is Miguel Teheran. So Miguel, he's a Microsoft MVP. He's also a Alibaba Cloud MVP. He writes a lot, especially if you're a Spanish native speaker. You can enjoy his blog posts about TypeScript and various other stuff. Also, I encourage you to follow him on Twitter, his blog, GitHub. Gosh, there are so many things interesting about you. And today he will be discussing OpenTelemetry. So this is, I'm pretty hyped about OpenTelemetry in regards how it evolved from like very basic stuff, and nowadays it's spreading across all the different technologies stacks. This sounds like a really cool topic.
Yes, agree. That's the idea. The idea is to show what are the benefits and advantages of using this tool.
Awesome. So this session should take around 45 minutes. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. We'll do our best to answer them at the end. And now the stage is yours. And without further ado, let's get it started. So let me share the stream, and then I will hide myself.
Yeah, we can see the slides now. Thank you very much. Thank you for this opportunity. So today we will perform an introduction about OpenTelemetry. This is like a getting started. So we will see some pretty basic demos and what is the purpose of this library, what are the advantages of using this library. So we will review like a general concept. But also at the end, we will have an advanced demo where we can see like a possible real scenario where OpenTelemetry is an amazing tool, is going to, give us an advantage and is going to help us with all the things related to telemetry and monitoring. So let's start with that. So yeah, as I had a presentation before, but if you want to follow me, remember Teheran and many social medias, and also mteheran.net is my official blog. Normally I post there in Spanish, but also if you want to read the same article in English, you can go to C# Corner and Depto. So let's start with the topic today. So what first we need to analyze what are the concept telemetry and monitoring. So regarding telemetry, we can see that telemetry is about data. It's about the data that we want to get about a specific behavior in our tools. Telemetry is a general concept. This is not directly related with technology or software development. It's a concept that we can apply in many areas, but finally it's the same thing. Data about behavior, and with this data we can make conclusions, or we can analyze possible issues, for example, and that kind of things. And monitoring is to keep this telemetry data analyzing constantly, because we want to detect something in the application, maybe like a performance issue, or maybe an error, or maybe a bad behavior in some specific user, for example. So that's the idea. The idea with monitoring is constantly see what is going on in the application and detect specific bad behaviors or bad scenarios. So in order to do this in .NET, to perform monitoring and get telemetry information, telemetry data, we have a lot of options that are included in the framework. We don't need an external library, or we don't need something else. We can do that with the default libraries included in .NET. For example, with trace, with the book, we can, for example, add information about some steps in the application in order to analyze a possible issue or something like that. For example, with event source and activity, we can get more information about how the components internally in the application are interacting. And also we have EventLog is a very useful diagnostic tool for monitoring for especially desktop application, console application, or in general application that are running in Windows, because this feature is only available for Windows. So we can see we have some option here, but also we need to take into account some like disadvantages of using this. We will see this in the next slides. So this is an example about EventLog, very popular, as I said before, in desktop application or application that use all the Windows ecosystem. The idea is to see in the application and services log information about some events in the application. It could be, for example, something unexpected. It could be an error. It could be information about, for example, an update in the application or something like that. So it depends on how we created the logs and all this implementation about monitoring in our application. But in general, we can add a lot of information and a lot of detail that is going to help us in specific scenarios, and also is going to help us to perform monitoring in our application. But remember, this is only for Windows. So also we have some libraries. These libraries use this basic component, extend the functionalities, and give us more and more functionalities. For example, Serilog and Log4net are very popular right now. Actually, with Serilog and Log4net, for example, we can create a local file to include the logs, or also we can connect to external services like application insights in Azure, and also, for example, Splunk, which is an amazing tool in order to process this data and, for example, design dashboards and that kind of thing in order to see the information with more details. I mean, with a better user interface. Also, we have Nlog and LMAF, Gelfornet, Health4net. All these libraries are really cool, are really useful, and very easy to include in our project. But also, there are some things that we need to take into account, some like disadvantages. So let's see that, for example, here in this slide, we have some challenge and issues with this approach that we saw before. The libraries and also the generic components that are included in the net. So one of the main things that we need to take into account is the compatibility with other technologies. In modern application, we don't use a monolithic architecture. Well, if the application is really large and with a lot of functionalities, we try to use, for example, microservices with cloud services and serverless and many things. So we have different services and API that are part of the same application. So this is the challenge here. So how we can communicate a .NET API and also a Node.js API and use the same tool in order to perform monitoring or to get telemetry data. How we can do that? So it's really difficult because as we saw before, some of the options actually are only available for Windows. And normally, when we are working with cloud services, we use Linux. So that's a big challenge. And that's the second like a challenge or issue that we have with this option. Also, we can have performance affectation. This is obviously not related to the generic components or the default tools in the framework. This is more related to the libraries. Some libraries that we saw before in some specific scenarios can have some performance issue, and also this is going to affect our project. Remember, this is a non-functional requirement. This is not related to the functionality. So the user is going to see some performance issues or some modules very slow, and this is not related to the processing data or with the logic, the business logic. This is related to the logging, and the user doesn't know that. Is not the ideal scenario. We don't want to do that. So with those libraries, in only some specific scenario, we can have this issue, and definitely this is something that we need to take into account. Also, we don't have any standard. I mean, each library for Node.js, Python, or .NET is going to save the log in different formats. Log4j, for example, has by default a specific format, and also Serilog. I mean, we can change it, and we can try to use like a generic format or something like that. But finally, by default, this library use other kind of things, and it's really difficult to handle this situation, especially when we have different technologies in many services. So that's the challenge and issues that we need to take into account with this logic that we saw before. So this is why OpenTelemetry is amazing, and we will see this in the next slides. So what is OpenTelemetry? So let's talk about OpenTelemetry, and let's start with this. So OpenTelemetry is like a set of tools to collect telemetry data and analyze with this behavior, performance. We can detect issues. We can improve how the application or how the component in the application are communicating or are sending data, that kind of thing. So the idea is to analyze more and more data and after that, make a decision about improve something in the code. So that's the idea. Maybe we can detect easily an error, for example, and with this information we can fix it really quick. So that kind of thing, that's the idea with OpenTelemetry. It's important to highlight that OpenTelemetry supports trace, metrics, and logs. This is the three pillars about observability. So with these three concepts, we can have all the information that we need in order to know what is going on in our applications. We will see this deeper in the next slides, but it's important to highlight that OpenTelemetry supports this. So with this, we are covering all the information that we probably need from our applications. Also, OpenTelemetry is open source and free, so we don't need to pay for something, and we have a lot of support of the community. And this is great because many companies are supporting right now the project, and with this we have like a budget in order to improve this library and get more and more features, and fix possible security issues and that kind of thing. So we have a lot of support for long time. Also, OpenTelemetry is standard across different technologies. This is the main advantage of OpenTelemetry. So we can use OpenTelemetry in Node.js, for example, and also in Python, and also in .NET. So we can create different microservices using the same library, OpenTelemetry, but with obviously the version for these technologies or this programming language, and then collect this data with another tool, and it doesn't matter the technology. Finally, we will see all this data with the same format, with the same standard. And with this, it's pretty easy to process this information and create like a dashboard or make better conclusions about what is going on in our application. The official website in OpenTelemetry is OpenTelemetry.io. It's very important to read the information in order to understand all the advantages, all the tools, all the different approach that we can apply with OpenTelemetry in our project. It's very important to highlight that OpenTelemetry is cloud native project tools. So the idea is to use OpenTelemetry in projects that are running in a cloud provider like Azure, GCP, or AWS. Even we can use OpenTelemetry in our local project like a desktop application or console application, or also, for example, we can use OpenTelemetry when we have a on-premises infrastructure. The idea is to use, OpenTelemetry is really oriented in cloud native projects. In this scenario, when we are in cloud, we will see all the potential, all the power of this library. So this is the ideal scenario when we have a cloud native project with microservices, for example, and we are using like a serverless functions, and we have a lot of orchestration there. So this is the ideal scenario where OpenTelemetry is going to help us a lot with the monitoring activity. So how we can start with OpenTelemetry? Well, it's very simple. Actually, we only need, for example, in this case, create a console project. If we already have a project, well, we can skip this step. And then we need to add the last version of the package Microsoft extensions logging. Okay, so normally this is included in the framework, but the idea is to use the last version, because finally OpenTelemetry is a new library and we need to assure ourselves that we are using the last version. And also, finally, we can add the package OpenTelemetry exported console. With this is enough in order to start to use it, something pretty basic, something pretty general in a console project. So we only need these 3 steps. And also, we need to update the program CS file. Here, we need to create a logger factory, something really common. This is something that we need to do if we are going to log in any information, even if we are not using OpenTelemetry. It's the same. But finally, with OpenTelemetry, we need to use in the builder add OpenTelemetry, and also add in the option add console exporter in order to see this information in the console. Because if we don't use this option, we will not see any result. And finally, we cannot be sure if the library is working fine or not. And then we have a demo at the end, right? Hello, Dotnetos Conference from OpenTelemetry. It's like a simple login. We are logging information and with this structure, we can start using OpenTelemetry. This is the really basic. This is a really basic project, but this is important because finally, with this, we can understand OpenTelemetry at the beginning, and then we can, give this example to the next level and apply this in for example, a minimal API or API, and then more complex projects. So let's continue. Let's see our first demo using OpenTelemetry. In the demo that I created, I performed these steps. So the project is already working with OpenTelemetry. So let's see that. So 1 second. Okay, I have the demo here. I will increase. I want to perform a zoom here in order to, see the code better. So we have a really simple project. This is a simple project, console project. We don't have a lot of things here. We are using .NET 6. Here we have Microsoft Station logging with the last version. And also we have OpenTelemetry exported console with this version. Okay, so no more here. And in the program, we can see the configuration, the basic configuration that we need here. So we have here, as we saw before in the slide, we need to add OpenTelemetry here, and also add the console exported in order to see the information in the console, in the terminal. And finally, we can log any information that we need in order to see the results. But this is pretty simple. We have the 2 using here, and let's execute this demo. So, okay, let's see. Yeah, if we go here, we can see this is the standard, right, that we have for OpenTelemetry. Oh, let me see here, a problem with the camera. Okay. Um, okay, we can see, for example, the time span. I mean, the like a start date. This is like a start date. We have the category name, which is the same name that we have for the class here. The log level, in this case, is information because we are logging information. And also we have the state here, which is hello community. Okay, state, this is the like at the standard that we will have for OpenTelemetry. So this structure is a standard across different technologies, and this is the main advantages, as we said before. We can log other things, obviously. For example, we can log an error, for example, and we can say um, for example, this is a simple error, something like that. Okay, we can execute here, and now we can see the error here. We have two logs, right? We have the first one and we have the second one here that is related to the error. We can see the log level here, error, and the category name. So that's the idea. With logging, we want to log a specific information that we manually add in the code in order to get more details about that specific workflow in the code. Okay, so that's the idea. Add a specific information because, for example, we want to know if process is completed or not, and also when an error occurs in the application, we want to log that, right? All the details of the details, all the details about the error, and with this information we can analyze better what is the situation and make a conclusion and fix the issue as soon as possible. So that's the idea. So let's continue. We have now the simple demo. We know how to include OpenTelemetry in our project. It's pretty simple, but we need to take into account something. We saw only one demo related to the three pillars related to observability. So with logging, we want to add a specific message or specific information to give more details about specific event in our project. It could be an error, it could be a warning, it could be a process that is really complex and we want to know when the process is completed. We can add, for example, time. We can calculate a time between the beginning and the end. And then we can have like a metric for that. So that's the idea with logging, but also we have the possibility to use metrics. With metrics, the idea is to calculate a specific value that is going to give us more information about the behavior in the application. For example, we can calculate how many posts and how many get calls in the API we have. Or for example, we can calculate how many logins we have in the morning, for example, or at night. So with this, we can conclude some things related to the user behavior in our applications. Also, we have the possibility to use trace. Trace is the best tool in order to analyze performance in our application. The idea with trace is to get all the details about how a component is calling another one. I mean, how the components are interacting in order to complete a specific workflow or a specific task, right? And also with trace, we will get information about the duration for this project. That's the idea, okay? So we have three options. All three options are really important, and the idea in our project is to include these three options, but also it's important to highlight that OpenTelemetry supports all of them. And yeah, this is very important and something that we need to take into account. So let's see the other demos that we have for metrics and traces in order to understand better these two concepts. So let's see here. Uh, let's go back here and let's revert this change and check out the branch for metrics, for example. So remember, we are in a console application. So in this case, I am simulating that we are in an API, for example, or that we have another possible like a banks scenario. So here we are using metrics. We have a different here. We have add method here. And this method, this is different than the demo that we saw before. Also, we have the console exporter. It's the same. I mean, with this, remember, we will see all this information in the console. That's the idea. And we have to create a method. And in this case, we call it counter, and with the type long. And we need to pass like a name here, which is request counter in this case. So with this case, we are simulating like a calls in an API, okay? And here we have some examples. So for example, post request, get request, put request, etc. So the idea is to calculate this request counter is going to calculate all these post requests, like it's going to count, right? It's going to count every request, and then we will give us like a total. That's the idea. That's the idea with metrics. Get this kind of information, calculate a specific value that is going to give us information that we need to conclude something or to make a decision in the application, right? So let's execute this demo. So here we can see the information. Let's clear everything first and execute again in order to, don't make mistakes analyzing the information. So here we can see, right, the start time for each of these requests. We can see like long sum value, and there we can see the total that we are looking for this metric in particular. So we have 2 posts, 2 get, and 1 put, for example. So if we go to the code, we can see that. We can see we have 2 posts, 2 get, and 1 put. So this is a simple example, but the idea with this is that you can understand better how this works, right? Let me execute it again. How this works, and it's very important to highlight that this is like a standard in OpenTelemetry. So for metrics, we will get this information, right? For logging, we will get a different format, but this is a standard across different technologies. And also we will see another demo, which is trace. Very important, right? So let's check out and let's go to trace. Let's clean this terminal here, and now we have here trace. So how we can use trace? Again, we can add the source here, which is console demo trace. Also, we have to add a console exported. Again, remember to see the changes in the console. Here we have an activity source. This is very important because this is the context that we will need to use in order to execute the whole workflow that we want to trace. And then at the end, we can set information about the trace. For example, we can say that a status, for example, and we can say that, okay, this process is complete and everything is fine. We can set all the tags that we want to apply for this project, for this process. And in this case, for example, we have a start number, and then we will execute like a loop here with this number. but we can add more information here. For example, in API, we can add, for example, the HTTP method, the HTTP response, the headers, the information, the body information, the session, etc. All the information that we need in order to complete, in order to know if this process is completed, and if the process is not completed, we need this information in order to like recreate this scenario, for example, or get more details in general about the process. So that's the idea with trace. Let's execute this demo. Okay, so trace is really great because we can see this default parameter, which is duration. So we can see what is how many time, how much time the application is taking, is using in order to complete this specific workflow. So we can analyze possible performance issues in our application using activity. We can see the tags here. As I said before, we can add more and more tags. It depends on our situation. But finally, with this, we want to get all the details, all the things that we need in order to reproduce an issue, for example, or to know in which is a specific scenario we have performance issues, that kind of things. We have the status code here, and finally, that's the result. So this is great, very simple. With this, we can understand better how trace works and how we can use it with OpenTelemetry. Okay, in this case, we have two namespaces from OpenTelemetry and OpenTelemetry trace. It's important to mention that. Okay, three examples, very simple, but in these three examples, we can see how OpenTelemetry works with logs, metrics, and trace. So let's go back. Let's go back to the slides and continue with the talk. So advantages of using OpenTelemetry, some advantages that we can highlight at this moment. Easy to use. We saw that we only need to include a specific nugget, a specific library in our project, and the configuration is very simple as well. We can apply this configuration also in an API, for example, or in a minimal API, and it's more or less the same thing. And after that, we don't need to do something else. It's just that, and then we can use the library in all the possible scenarios that we want to include in our application. Maybe logs, maybe metrics. Okay. Also, we have a really good support for the community. It's important to highlight that with OpenTelemetry, we have the opportunity to use a library that is supported by community, but also by cloud providers. Many cloud providers, the most important one, are investing a lot of times and effort and budget for this library in order to get this standard across different technologies and also across different cloud providers. So in multi-cloud environments, or in multi-cloud scenario, when we are using services from multiple cloud providers, we can also have a standard to get this log, to perform monitoring, to get telemetry data. Okay, it's important to highlight that OpenTelemetry doesn't have any affectation about performance. Obviously, in some scenarios, and also it's important to highlight that the library is something new. So maybe there are some issues that we don't know at this moment, but in general, is really good, the performance. We don't have affectation directly in the application. We have the option to use exporters in OpenTelemetry. It's very important to mention that as well. We can integrate OpenTelemetry with other tools, like, for example, Azure Insights, like, for example, in Google Monitor, that kind of tools. Also, Jaeger. and some tools that are related to, get this telemetry data and show us a better user interface in order to understand better the data that we are processing. Okay, and also remember, OpenTelemetry is completely open source and free. Is the community for the community, so we don't have to pay anything in any scenarios. It's completely open source. So let's go to the next slide. In this case, we will want to see an advanced demo, because this is, I mean, it was very simple, the demos that we saw, but it's super important to see it, because finally is how we can start from scratch with OpenTelemetry. But now we need to think about something more complex with microservices, with queue services, queue services, broker, and that kind of things, because this is a possible scenario that we can have in our application, especially when we have a cloud native project. We will probably use all of these things, and even this demo is pretty simple about business logic. We will see the demo and in the next slide. Even if project is very simple, we have like a distribution between microservices, and we are connecting with queue services broker and that kind of things. So finally, we have many services related to the architecture, and this is close, very close to a possible real scenarios. So this demo was created by Giovanni De Leon and Elvis Bactizabal. I want to say thank you, because they give me this demo to show here this in this talk. They created this in a community in Latam, .NET community. And this demo is actually a little simple, but we have a lot of components that we need to understand. So we have a SQL database. This SQL database is going to receive information about order API and payment API. So the idea is to receive the order from the front-end side, and the order API is going to create a new record in the database, and also is going to create a message in RabbitMQ. RabbitMQ is the service that we will use in order to send messages. So payment is going to receive the message and is going to pay the order. Is going to automatically, because we don't have like other services here. I mean, this is like a simulation. Payment API is going to pay the order automatically by default, and is going to update the same database with this information, with the payment information. And also, then it's going to create a new message in RabbitMQ in order to notify that this order is complete. I mean, the order was created, the order was paid, and then is ready to show this information in the front end side. So in order to see the changes in real time, we will have Signaler. Signaler is going to check constantly this information in RabbitMQ. Is going to read that information, and is going to update in real time the information in the front end side. In this case, is a Blazor application, Blazor WebAssembly application. So let's see this demo, because with this we will understand better how OpenTelemetry works. So okay, this is the last slide. So let's see the demo. Okay. Okay, there we go. So here I have the demo. All the projects are running right now. Okay, so we have notifications API. We have order API. This is the main API. I mean, at the beginning, the front end is going to communicate with order API. It's going to send the order. Then payment is going to receive the order using RabbitMQ. Is going to listen that and then it's going to pay the order and generate a new message to pass to Notify API. Okay, Notify API is using SignaLayer. So when notification API receive the message, is going to use this hook in order to communicate with the client about this new message. So that's the idea. So the client, the front end, which is Blazor app, is going to receive this information here in index razor. Yeah, we have the information here. So the idea is to use to send using this input order with a specific number, and then communicate all the microservices and get the information. So I just want to show you how we are connecting with OpenTelemetry in the APIs. Let me show you that really quick. Okay, yeah. Here we have we have the possibility to use Jaeger, but also App Insights in order to save the information. And you can see that it's very simple. The step that we need to follow in order to include OpenTelemetry. Again, add the library and perform this configuration for the API. But it's very, very simple. So let's see this demo. We don't have a lot of time, so finally it's really cool to see this demo running to analyze the behavior and see the information in application insights. So this is the demo. Okay, I was checking the demo before the talk. We can create a new order, for example, 75. Okay, ahí está. Okay, this is already processed. Okay, let's see, for example, 12. Okay, let me try with another one, or maybe a large number. Okay, I don't know why. Let me refresh maybe here. Okay, perfect. Okay, that's the expected behavior now. So the idea is to see this result here. We can this order is in process when we send the order to the orders API. But the order API then is going to send a message to the payment API, and then when it's paid, when the payment is complete, here we will see order confirm message. We can see the details here. This is like a simulation, right? Random data. So we are like creating a possible real scenario with payments and that kind of things. And then if we want to see information about this, let me create some additional information. Okay, we have many orders now. We can see this information in application insight. So all the information generated by OpenTelemetry in our project is going to be here. If we go to live metrics, we need to see here that information. And then with this, we can analyze all the, all the things that are happening in our project. So we can see here the requests, for example, here. Oh, let me see. Let me try a new one here. Okay, perfect. Let's see. Okay, yeah, we have here in real time, we have the information that is coming from our project, and we can see how all the information is processed. And we have, for example, application map. Depending on the log, we can see here all the we can see more details about the projects that we are using and how these projects are processed. So this is great. Oh, sorry. And also we have like the option to see the failure here. Okay. And in general, yeah, we have a lot of information, and this is related to the performance. In this case, for example, we have many information about the performance in our front-end application. Also, all of this is using OpenTelemetry. So that's the idea with this demo, to see this information here in this tool. And yeah, That's the idea. And let me see if we can see a specific log here. Yeah, this is the same. Yeah, we can see all the information about performance. So yeah, this is the demo that I have for you today, and all the, all the concepts and all the things that we want to learn and we want to analyze for this session. So we learn about OpenTelemetry, how it works with logs, metrics, and trace, and also we saw complex demo where OpenTelemetry is the ideal tool. So that's it from my side. I don't want to take more time for these sessions, and we have a 45 minutes. So let me know if you have questions, or we have time for questions actually.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you, Miguel, for presenting that. Actually, we have a few remarks. So first, the page that you mentioned, OpenTelemetry.io, probably that's the page if someone wants to start playing with it and using it in the projects. The second was mentioned by Pelaret that this is the second most active project in the Cloud Native Foundation. Probably the first one starts with K, right? We are talking about cloud
Yeah, it
native.
makes sense.
But definitely, as it's presented here, and if you take a look at the OpenTelemetry IO, you will see that it's getting a lot of traffic. Oh yeah, and in regards to the question whether it starts with K, I assume this is the answer. I mean, the first one in cloud native stuff. Cool. And one more thing, I mean, with in Dotnetos, we are quite performance focused and try to wear always the performance hats. And I just was looking at small stuff when you're discussing it. And I mean, sorry, this is like a large URL, but definitely if you want to take a look how it is implemented, and you can see that OpenTelemetry and OpenTelemetry -.net, it actually makes some interesting tricks to make it really fast. So whenever you are gathering some data, aggregating, countering averages, whatever, you will see that on the low level there is like a lot of interlocked volatile stuff, crazy low level optimizations to actually match the description that you've given, that this is like a really cool library, really cool approach. And beside being the like it's really open, right? Because this is about the uh, cloud native, and as you mentioned, this works pretty nicely with App Insights, and I believe for the other stuff, other cloud providers, it works.
Mhm.
There is also some great support for that, right?
Yeah, that's the idea. As I mentioned, this is oriented to cloud native project, and even if you have like a multiple cloud providers in your project, like a multi-cloud environment or multi-cloud architecture, this is going to work perfectly. So this is the main advantage that we have with OpenTelemetry. Even if we can use it in local environments or on-premises environments, or for console application or desktop application, the best scenario where OpenTelemetry works perfectly and is going to perform like a solution that maybe other libraries cannot do, is where you are using microservices and multi-cloud providers and using a lot of these services that normally we need to include in a project, like a message broker, like serverless function, like storage, etc. So with OpenTelemetry, we can monitoring everything there.
Okay, a few other questions, and I think I missed one at least. Is there a way to export logs to tools like Elk or Grafana logs using OpenTelemetry exporters?
I don't know actually, because I am just starting with OpenTelemetry. I know we have this integration with App Insights and also with the like at the same service, but in Google and AWS, for example, Google Monitor and that kind of things. But also we can use others exported, but I don't have the list. I am pretty sure that in the documentation you can double check that, because there they clarify the version and also the tool that is that can support OpenTelemetry.
Oh yeah, and we have one Belarus is chiming in again. So about he mentions that you can do it via collector.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one more question. We have a few more minutes. Should one be worried about the let's say costs? Because sometimes when you think about cloud, it can get pretty costly in regards to the the final bill that one needs to pay for the cloud services. So how does this work with let's say different cloud providers and their services? Is it like you can have it enabled all the time, or maybe you should have it disabled from time to time? What is your opinion on that?
Well, if remember that the idea with the services in that we want to, where we the services that we want to use in order to process these logs and this data are they have the different costs. It depends on the cloud provider, right? And finally, this going to help us to see with more details and a better UI this information. So that's the goal. Apps in science, I know that is a little expensive, and also, yeah, we need to take into account with that. But finally, this is not closely related to OpenTelemetry, right? We with OpenTelemetry, we have also the option to save the logs in other ways. But finally, if we save, for example, the information that we are collecting with this tool in a, for example, a static file, in a local file, we will not have we will not achieve the goal of this tool, which is like a give information from different sources that are running in different environment and maybe in different clouds. So this is why it's very strange to have this approach and save the log, this data. I mean, all the log metrics and trace all this data in a different way, and not use these tools, because finally we cannot perform a relationship between all this log and all this information that is generated. I suggest, if you don't want to pay a big amount of money in apps in science or that kind of tool, you can create host your own tool, like a Jagger, which is very popular, and use like a container for this, publish this tool, and send all the information to this tool that you have. Actually, this is not on premises service, but you need to create your own service in order to analyze this with an open tool, open source tool. That's another possibility. And with this, we only need to pay the host, right? The host for this application, but we don't have to pay more money depending on the amount of data, of the type of log that we are using, or that kind of things, or for extra tool. We only need to pay the cost of hosting our tool in the cloud provider.
Perfect. And one more thing. I mean, you mentioned that this is fully open, and as one can see, OpenTelemetry, this is an organization on GitHub. So if you are interested in making it better, for sure you can also send a request, a pull request. I mean, everyone can raise an issue, but sending a good, well-formed pull request is always a nice way to participate in an open source project, right?
Yes, agree, completely agree. I mean, we need more documentation. Actually, for example, you don't have to start with a complex code or with that kind of thing. You can start with documentation. In Spanish, for example, we don't have a lot of documentation, articles, or information in order to use this tool. So if you want to, collaborate with this project, I suggest to start from there. Create documentation, give more information about this, most tutorials, guides, and then in the future, I am pretty sure that we worry about new features or new things to do with this library. But at this moment, we need to. I think we need to fix all the possible bugs that we have, and also, keep the focus on documentation, guys, and yeah, analyze possible scenarios where this library is the best tool.
Awesome. Miguel, thank you for this beautiful and awesome introduction to the world of OpenTelemetry. We are getting back online tomorrow with even more presentations. A big shout out to our sponsors, Allegro Pay and Demand Technologies, for helping us in making that happen. And thank you all the folks for watching that and participating in our discussion. Miguel, thank you again. And that was a pure
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Thank you very much. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye, guys.